Hello and welcome to the first video for PA Mentor. My name is James Kimber and I'm a physician assistant and the founder of PA Mentor Online. We provide a variety of services such as personal statement editing, general advising, and mock interview preparation. And for the first video, I thought it'd be fitting to interview the first student that I ever worked with, Ashley. She graduated from the PA program at Stanford University, and she has graciously agreed to conduct this interview and provide you with her insight into the application process, everything that she went through, and hopefully this will be helpful for you and your journey to applying towards a PA program. This is our first video, so be sure to check back for others where we interview other students that we've helped successfully get into a PA program, as well as currently practicing physician assistants. We also are going to have videos that will explain our services and how we can make you the best candidate possible for a PA program. Thank you for watching, and we hope that we can help you too.
Welcome to Physician Assistant Mentor Online.
Okay, so...
Okay, you ready?
You're ready, yeah.
Okay, I'm ready.
So go ahead and tell us your name.
I'm Ashley Castellano.
And which school did you graduate from?
Stanford University.
Okay. So tell us about your experience. Like, what led you to want to become a PA?
Well, actually, it was mostly you. You were the first PA I ever met. So I was actually on the track, the medical field track in general. I was thinking about being a physician, and then I decided I didn't want to be in my 30s and just starting my career, and also thinking of like the student loan aspect. That was a big part of it. And then so I actually transitioned into becoming a physical therapy aide, and I was thinking physical therapy. And then I did that for about 2 years and I wasn't really into it. And then I met you and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I want to do. And I did a little more research, and then I just kind of made the decision to do it. Okay. Yeah. So
how did that path go for you? I mean, what did you have to do in order to be able to apply?
So I had to so first I talked to you, and you had a lot of insight about the different things that I needed in order to become a good applicant. And then I also went to the Stanford info sessions, and they kind of laid it out for me. You know, you need to have great letters of recommendation, you need to have medical experience, volunteer experience, all this stuff, and great grades. And so I had some of the stuff because, again, I was already on the track of going into the medical field. But mainly I needed to get a lot more healthcare experience besides just physical therapy aid. So I decided to become an EMT. Luckily my background was kinesiology, so I became an exercise physiologist, and I also became a caregiver and an informal medical assistant. I did a lot of things because at that time Stanford required 3,000 hours of experience. And the worst part about that even was you even had to subtract even less hours because it only counted how often you were interacting with a patient.
Right.
So it's even more than 3,000 hours. So I really worked a lot of jobs and really focused on doing as much as possible just so I could get the hours to get into school.
How did you go about getting the EMT?
So I actually looked around for different schools, and I couldn't get into anything soon enough except for a place up in Long Beach, and I actually stayed with your sister. And I went up there, did the course during the week, and then came home and worked on the weekends. And so luckily I had a place to stay when I was doing that. But yeah, so I took because again, I met you, I decided it, and then I just went and got into the EMT school just 2 or 3 months later, and went from there, hit the ground running.
And then the caregiving, how did you come about that?
How did I come about that?
It was on Craig's.
Was it on Craig's?
Yeah.
Dang, okay. You even remember that? I don't remember that. Okay. So yeah, I just looked up for a position and found it. And actually it was such a great experience because I ended up volunteering my last year for them. So I just worked for free for them.
Nice.
Yeah.
He was a nice guy.
He was so awesome. So I worked for him for a year, and then as a Christmas gift, I gave him my next year because I knew I was going to leave them.
Yes.
And they knew my ultimate goal was to get into PA school. And so I just felt like, hey, I only do this, 2 to 4 hours a week. I should just volunteer for them and give that back to them. So that felt really great to do.
And then how long did it take you to accumulate all the hours that you needed?
Luckily, I already had the physical therapy aid for 2 years. And then it probably took me another 2 years to have enough hours. And again, it's because, as an EMT, you're only interacting with a patient 50% of the time,
right.
So all your hours don't count.
Then you kind of shortened. I mean, you did work for as an EMT for a while, but then you cut that short.
Yeah, because because I ended up becoming an exercise physiologist and working for one of the Stanford PAs. And so I and luckily that paid me more because EMT is not a lot of money. So I also had to like try to pick the jobs that would pay me the best because, I still had to live. So.
Where did you do your undergrad?
San Diego State.
Okay. And what did you study there?
Kinesiology with emphasis in pre-physical therapy.
Okay. Do you feel that helped you in terms of towards PA?
Yeah, it gave me all the prerequisites. I don't know if it's the same nowadays, but definitely did back then.
Okay. Now about PAs, did you apply to how many programs did you apply to?
I only applied to 2, Davis and Stanford.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get an interview with Davis?
Yes.
Okay. Obviously you interviewed with Stanford.
Yes.
How was your interview experience?
It was good. I think I was definitely nervous for both of them, but I prepared. First I wrote down all the different questions and then answered them in a kind of a Word document. And then I went through again and made the Word document more bullet points.
Okay.
And then I would kind of talk to myself. And then I practiced the interview with several different people, with you and Katie and, different mentors and PAs who helped me get into school.
Right.
Yeah.
But you did other things too. I mean, you took some trips up to Stanford, didn't you?
Yeah, so...
and you went to the information session.
Yeah, so first I did the information sessions, and then I got to know the admissions director, and he actually offered it to a lot of people, like, hey, if you want to come up and do like a mock application, I will go over it with you. And it was funny because I remember showing up, and he's like, do you know how few students actually do this? And I'm like, what? Like, this is the opportunity to know exactly everything that I need to get in. And so he combed through it and was like, this needs to be better, this needs to be better. Yeah. And I even did a mock personal statement. And of course it totally changed by the time I applied, but it was still good experience. Yes. And then he offered, when I was up there, he's like, hey, do you want to volunteer for graduation? So I volunteered for graduation, and then I met more people. I actually knew both people who interviewed me when I actually ended up interviewing, because I had met the whole staff and they knew I wanted to go there. And that's also how I got the job with one of the PAs from the school, because they're like, oh, you should shadow her, she's great. And I shadowed her and she's like, do you want a job? And I was like, yes, like, that's incredible. So.
Did you take the GRE?
I did not.
Okay.
It wasn't required. Right. I know it's a bigger deal now, but luckily.
Right.
Doesn't that sound sad? It's like, man, how is it? It's all like a decade old now, but yeah, back in the day.
When you were in your undergrad, were there any courses that were particularly hard for you or you found more challenging?
Yeah, I mean, luckily I had a knack for chemistry and like biology. I really enjoyed that and did well. I hated physics. I struggled so much with physics, so I just don't know where they get any of those equations. They seem to come out of nowhere, So yeah, I struggled with physics, but luckily did well in the other sciences.
Now, did you feel, because you were pretty young when you applied, you still are pretty young.
But I was younger when I applied,
You were younger when you applied.
Yes.
Did you feel like maybe you weren't qualified or competitive enough because a lot of the other applicants were much older and had more experience?
Of course. I was still I think I was the second youngest in my class. Yeah.
All time.
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely felt young. And even... Because I remember when I met you, you were so encouraging. You were like, you need to apply now. And I waited an extra year because I didn't feel ready, And because I didn't have the hours either. Like, I started calculating it out, and I was like, there's just no way. But that was great because then I got to work with the Stanford PA and all that stuff. So yeah, I felt very young, and even going into the application cycle, I was so worried I wasn't going to get in the first time, because I'm like, there's no way. There's so many other people who have more experience, but also I did a lot of other things to try to get in. Yes. So yes. I tried to be, not only did I have medical experience, but like the volunteering and getting to know Stanford and my grades and my letters of recommendation, I really tried to at least be a well-rounded student. So I think that helped more than being older.
Yeah, tell me about some of the volunteer work that you did.
So the main thing I did was I actually created like a teaching program, like lecture program for formerly homeless women, about nutrition and cooking. So I would kind of develop like PowerPoints, talk to them about different nutrition and give them like meals and recipe, and then we'd come together and like make the meals together. So that was like my main thing. And then I did some other things. I did like Flying Samaritans and Planned Parenthood and a few other things.
Okay. So you got accepted.
Yeah.
So tell us about, I don't know, the first day you stepped into school. How was that?
It was great. I was so excited to become a PA. I'm still excited to be a PA. I love my job. And yeah, my first day was great. I couldn't believe I got in. I was like just so excited to be there. And it wasn't as nerve-wracking. I like school. I excel in school, so I was excited to start it. I mean, PA school was insanely hard, but worth it. Definitely worth it, and I was excited to be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as time goes on and you're taking your exams, your practicums, did you ever feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'll be able to do this, or?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah, it's very easy to get overwhelmed in PA school.
Yes.
As you know, they always say it's like drinking from a fire hose. Yeah. It really is. It's trying to learn. Even doctors, when they go through 4 years of medical school, it's so overwhelming for them. So imagine 2 years. It's very overwhelming, especially when, you don't even know what pancreatitis is, like you're like starting from nothing, and there were many, and even when I have students that I mentor now too, I even tell them, it's okay to have multiple breakdowns during school, but it's so worth it, you'll get through it, and it's the best job ever. It's worth it.
Okay. Were there any particular points in school where maybe something about school was particularly hard, or?
That's a good question. What was particularly hard? I think not so much the anatomy and physiology and the kind of the beginning stuff, because I at least had an introduction to that, but a lot of the disorders, and especially, funny enough, neurology, even though you're a neurology PA, I always found neurology very complex and just so many different things to learn, and some other things too, I guess. Some specialties that I wasn't as interested in, like OBGYN, was harder to learn just because I wasn't as interested. Right. So yeah, the more complex things and some of the stuff that I knew I wasn't going to go into.
Now, what was your favorite rotation?
ER.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. Which is what I do now.
Right.
Yeah.
So you graduated, and then? And
now I work in the ER, and love my job.
But you started the ER right after graduation?
Right after graduation, yeah.
So you've been doing that since?
Yeah, I actually did ortho and ER. I did ortho for about 4 years part-time, but I just don't enjoy clinic like I do the ER.
But you don't work in an ER nearby?
No, I work far away.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I work in 2 ERs, so I work close here a few days a month, and then far away for about 8 days a month, 8 to 9.
But you really like that experience working the ER?
I love the ER.
What do you like about the ER?
I love new things. I love fast pace. I love feeling like sometimes I can really help and change things. Like it's just really awesome. I really love the patients. I try to like I have a personality where I feel like I'm usually in a good mood, and I want to make them laugh, and so I like that like they're so scared and worried and stressed, and I'm kind of more like, hey, it's all good, and like we see a lot of this, and you're gonna be okay. Like I just think my personality really fits in with the ER, and I just really enjoy the fast craziness.
And how do you feel as a PA working in an ER? I mean, are you really working on your own, or? Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because every site's very different, and I think a lot of future PAs need to know that every place is so different how they treat their PAs. Like at my faraway site, I really feel like a colleague to the doctors. I get to do all the same things as them. I can pick up any patient I want. I can see however high acuity or low acuity I want. But at the other side, it's more like I can only do fast track. So I see like the really easy, ankle sprains, and which is nice because sometimes it's nice to go in the ER and be like, I'm not going to be stressed today, right.
So yeah, so every person just needs to find what works for them, but just realize that every hospital, doctor, everyone's going to treat you a little bit differently. Your role is going to be a little bit different. I'm so blessed and happy and love the direction my career is going, and feel really lucky that I ended up where I am.
So how do you manage to wear all these hats?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I'm trying to slow down a little bit. I don't know. It's really hard. It's just, it's my personality, you know? I want to
Yes.
do great things and I love what I do, you know? And I think that shows with how committed I am and how much I want to work. And, but also like life's important too. And so I'm trying to like back away from that. It's a little difficult, but I'm still happy with where I'm at.
So one of the things we always hear from our students that we work with, they're interested in becoming a PA because of what they say, the balance between work and life.
Yeah.
What would you say to the students that want to become a PA about that?
I would say it's possible. It definitely is. I think a lot of PAs find a balance much more than maybe other fields, but not always, you know? Like I also know that a lot of people in the ER work multiple jobs and we all work hard. Because I think it depends on what type of person you are, you know? I think a lot of driven people go to PA school, and so they're just driven naturally to do a lot of things and to be involved in a lot of things. And so, but I think it's definitely achievable. It's more so than other fields for sure.
I think we find with a lot of these students, it's sort of this, you know, PA is probably going to be a little bit of an easier life than
I don't think easier.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I think, I think that's naive to think that, because it's the same, in a lot of ways it's the same job, right? You just get there quicker and then can ask questions while you're in the job than learning everything and then starting the job. But it's the same job, you know? So it's, can be just as stressful. It's the same amount of hours. You don't necessarily always get more time with patients, because I know a lot of students think that, and they even write in their personal statement. And I'm like, no, it's the same job, So, but I do agree that like a lot of physicians, just like their path that they have to go on is longer and more difficult. So at least like you can get into your career early and hopefully like get more of that work-life balance earlier,
Yes.
But
It's the same responsibilities.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you tend to still be that driven person who wants to do a lot of things and be involved in a lot of things. So
When you started working in the ER, how long would you say before you were actually kind of on your own? It's like, okay, you go ahead and see your own patients.
I saw my own patients right away, but like stopping consulting the doctor on every single patient,
right.
probably 3 to 6 months, and then probably not feeling comfortable until a year or two.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, it took a while to feel comfortable.
Yes.
Like now I can get through most of my day. And even like the harder patients, I'm like, I'm gonna go ask the attending, but I kind of still have an idea of what I'm doing. And yeah, there's still those patients where I'm like, please help me. But at least I can get through most of my day without their help. I always try to stress that too, this is kind of like for later advice, but once you get out of school, it's really important to find a doctor or a first job that's gonna teach you, and you can ask as many questions and call as many times, and because you're gonna really need that help. Really. And yeah, it is. Even for doctors though, I've talked to many doctors who are like, my first Tylenol prescription, I was like panicking and calling the attending, can I write this, So we all go through it. We all have to learn, and, and it should be a little panicking. We're taking care of people,
Yes.
So we should all be a little nervous about it, but it's great.
And so since you mentioned it, what advice do you have for future applicants?
I would say, I think a lot of students, at least what I've come across, make the mistake of, I'm just going to apply to 20 schools. And honestly, I think it should be more, who are you about? What do you already have to bring to the table? And find schools that match with that. Or pick something that's important to you, location, or their mission statement, or how long you're in school, or the price, and then kind of narrow it down and then build yourself to be able to get into those schools, because I feel like too many students pick 20 schools and spread themselves so thin, like, I'll be a little good at this, a little good at that, and then no school wants you because they're looking for the top of their application pool, so I think it's important to narrow that down and then become that well-rounded student and get through PA school and then pick a good job that will teach you what you need to learn.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
What about, I'm just going to go back a little bit.
Okay.
Do you think that you made any mistakes when you were applying for PA programs, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or wasted time doing this?
I think I wasted a little too much time. Like my volunteering could have been a little bit stronger. I'm glad I created that program, but I wish I would have done it longer and been more involved. Like, I think a lot of programs want to see that you invest in time and things, you know? Like I did a lot of like, oh, I was here for Planned Parenthood for 4 hours, or I did this for 4 hours, or, you know, it doesn't show dedication, you know? PA schools want dedication and leaders, you know? They want people who say, I wanted to do this, so I changed this, and I spent a lot of time doing it, you know? They like that more than, I want here a little bit, I want here a little bit, I did this for a little bit, you know? And maybe not work so much, but, you know, I'm still struggling with that now. So.
What recommendations would you have for students when it comes to their letters of recommendation? Because we get a lot of students who just, you know, I shadowed somebody for 8 hours, should I test them?
Please do not do that. It shows, you know, I go over applications now, and I know it's more important to get somebody who knows you really well and can give specific examples with why you're amazing than, you know, I shadowed somebody, or like I got some high up person somewhere who barely knows you and writes 3 sentences about you, you know? So I am way more impressed with some, you know, PA that I have no idea who they are, where they work, but they created a position for you, versus somebody at a school who is the dean of something, you know? Like, it's way more important that they know you well, that they want to spend the time writing a great letter about you and have examples for why you're great.
Right. We usually tell them also you want to find somebody you've known for at least 6 months.
At least, yeah. And also I mean, schools do want you to, you know, they like if you have, you know, maybe a doctor, a teacher, or an instructor, you know, and a PA. I mean, I know it's not always going to be like that, but they don't want it from like 3 different, you know, like maybe a nurse or like.
Or your supervisor.
Yeah, your supervisor from like a bike shop, you know, like. No, you know, or a nurse is great, or, you know, but I mean,
yes,
just not everything from one source, or a source that's not in medicine.
Well, right. We try to emphasize that, you know, a nurse, that's good, except for a nurse doesn't prescribe.
Right,
They're not the actual treating person.
Right.
So they don't, whereas they may comment on your ability, they don't know what that really involves.
Right. So you do want to get the people who are going to be who essentially do your job, PAs and doctors, and who know you can get through school. Instructors.
Instructors.
Exactly.
You know, they didn't have Casper back.
They did, actually.
Oh.
I know, a decade old, but or a decade from applying. Yeah, they had Casper.
So tell me about your experience applying through Casper, because I think it was pretty new when you started.
Yeah, it was. And Stanford's was still on the old school paper, which was annoying, but now they're Casper. And but Davis was Casper. I didn't apply as soon as it opened. I don't know how much that really affects if you get in or not. I don't really think it does, because even with Stanford and the Casper applications we review all of them. So, you know, but, you know, maybe if there's less interview spots towards the end, you know, maybe it's a little bit more competitive. So I opened it. I did apply early. I closed my application before the deadline, but I wasn't like opening it and doing it in one day either.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Schools. I think the other advice I would give, especially with Stanford, but I'm sure it applies to a lot of the other schools, is being a well-rounded applicant. So it's not just grades, it's not just the personal statement, it's all of it. And so it's tough, right? Because everything is very competitive, and each school takes the most competitive students from their applicant pool. So you really have to, you know, be a well-balanced student. Lots of volunteering, lots of medical or health experience, and personal statements, letter of recommendations, GPA, it's all of it. But it's definitely one of the best jobs and really worth it. And even though it may take you, you know, a few years to get in, it's totally worth it.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, as I've said before, and I keep saying over and over, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're the first person I ever worked with.
I know.
Got in, and here you are doing so well.
Thank
But
you.
I appreciate you doing this, and I hope other people listen to your words and take your advice.
I hope so too.
Work for you.
Yeah, it did.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, you're welcome.